Who would win a fight between Lambo and Harstem? Will we finally get to see a Protoss player in the top 4 of the Dreamhack Masters Europe? And what in the world is an unpaired word? All of these questions will be answered in today's episode of StarCraft Today.
StarCraft Today.
Your favorite StarCraft news show. Dreamhack Masters 2022 continued on in the past week, and we will be looking at some of the major upsets as well as the group standing after the full 7 rounds of playing. And the first upset of the week happened in Group A after Reiner already lost a painful ZVZ the week before versus Soul Spirit. And no, Soul Spirit is not Spirit, the player formerly known as Soul, who name changed again. Soul Spirit is actually a French Zerg player that is just called Soul Spirit. Anyway, this meant that the Reiner match versus Elazer would most likely decide who would sit on the number 1 position in this group. And in game 1, Elazer opened up with an aggressive low drone Ling Bane attack, which Reiner responded to poorly. As a result, Reiner got so far behind that defending became impossible and Elazer swept up game number 1. On the second map, Elazer once again decided to be aggressive as he opened up with a 12-pool drone pool. This time around, however, Reiner had a solid response prepared with a 16-pool himself and thus destroyed this aggression without any major issues. Game 3 started well for the Polish Zerg as he got some minor build order advantages in the early game. However, that all gets evened out when Elazer does not respond to 2 slow banelings entering his natural mineral line and clearing 7 drones, while simultaneously Reiner forces a cancel on Elazer's third. Reiner does gain a supply lead in the mid game, but Elazer holds on to his upgrade advantage. The game gets a true power shift when Elazer starts Burrow Roach harassing Reiner, who is criminally underprepared for this and as a result takes some eco losses as well as unit losses, and that evens up the supply. And with Elazer still having a tech and upgrade advantage, eventually he pushes into Reiner with a massive lurker lead, forcing the young Italian to tap out and giving this surprising result in Group A. Elazer in first, Reiner in second, Gerald third and Spirit in fourth place. Moving on to Group B, we saw no major upsets in this group in the second half of the rounds, but it is important to note that Lambo lost his last 2 matches versus both MaxPax and Hero Marine. Luckily for Lambo, MaxPax had already lost a Milky Cow and thus Lambo managed to advance on in the second spot in this group anyway, while Hero Marine takes first. MaxPax ends up in the 3rd position and Milky Cow in 4th. Group C was an intense group till the very last round. Utermal and Mana were fighting for a 4th place position in the group, while Harstem was already comfortably in 3rd. Skilles and Serral seemed untouchable in the number 1 and 2 spot, as Skilles' final match was against Jon Jakov, a player who at that moment was 0-6 in the group. As Harstem took out Mana 2-0 and Utermal lost to Serral, this meant that Utermal managed to advance on in the 4th place, Mana getting knocked out and Serral having a guaranteed number 1 position. Skilles, however, seemed to be struggling an awful lot with young Jakov's cheesy play, as the young Russian Zerg used the Queenling Nidus Worm to great effect, allowing him to get a 2-1 win, pushing Skilles down to 3rd place and allowing Harstem to advance in 2nd place and thus getting into the winner bracket rather than the lower bracket. Last week's story in Group D was Shadow's insane performance against Clem. However, after the initial 3-0 start in this group, things started to go very, very wrong for this French Protoss player. Losing the next 3 matches in a row, it became an absolute must to beat Kung Fu Banda in order to even advance on to the next round. And in the final map of that best of 3, we saw Shadow perform under pressure. A DT run by in combination with a solid defense against Kung Fu Banda's push out gave Shadow the lead that he needed to eventually finish the game and advance on into that next round. And that led to the following score in Group D. Showtime in first, Clem in second, Shadow in third and Ratata in the 4th position. These results led to this following bracket and this Lambo tweet. And well, let's just say that this will be taken care of. This is the last time that this Zerg kid will run his mouth. Anyway, that bracket stage played out in a rather one-sided fashion. Serral taking out Lambo 3-0, Reiner destroying Showtime 3-0, and Clem blasting his teammate Elazer off the face of the earth with another 3-0. The final match of the day between Harstem and Hero Marine was predicted to be very similar, perhaps a trio in favor of the German Terran, but sometimes predictions are wrong. And that showed as Harstem managed to snatch a quick 2-1 lead, winning both 2K Atmospheres and Curious Mind in rather long macro games. Hero Marine's only win up to that point got earned through a fast 3-Rex tank all-in, which the Dutch Toss wasn't quite ready for. In game number 4, however, Hero Marine took control of the game very early on with a Proxy Reaper and a bunker on Harstem's natural. Harstem tried following up with a scuffed version of Phoenix Colossi, but failed miserably despite a big stasis hitting in the middle of the map. Hero Marine's aggression kept piling on, and in a relatively easy fashion, the German Terran crushed the opposition and evened up the score 2-2. The final map was to be played on Hardwire, and we saw Harstem's solid preparation paying off, opening up with a double adept into Twilight, managing to trick Hero Marine into believing it was a Stargate. This gave the Dutch player a lot of map control, allowing him to spot the double medevac flyby that Hero Marine was planning on, and that caused so much trouble in game number 4. Despite these initial setbacks for Hero Marine, we saw the Terran player still managing to grab back map control and put on some serious mid-game pressure with a big Bio Viking army. Harstem's defense was a little shaky, but he managed to hold anyway, and once the disruptor count hit 5, the pristine Protoss player moved across the map to shove some Purification Novas into Hero Marine's face. What followed was an almost never-ending assault of Stalkers, Disruptors and Blink DTs, moving in at the seemingly right time to break the fortress that Hero Marine had created. Hero Marine took one more desperate and, quite frankly, brilliant fight, evening up the supply and giving himself a fighting chance, but sadly for the Terran it wasn't enough as his eco had been meticulously pulled apart, and after a final desperation attack, Harstem took the win and the series with a 3-2 victory. That means that the upper semifinals will be Rainer versus Serral and Clem versus Harstem. That finishes up Europe, but luckily we also had some games over in America. Starting in Group A with a result that not many people expected in Scarlet versus Epic. The North American Terran player showed that a Legalug rating is just a number, as with some slick macro play he managed to take out Scarlet in an exciting match on 2K Atmospheres in game number 1. In game 2, we see Scarlet open up with a fast roach push, dealing more damage than she ever should have given, that Epic opened up with Banshees. A little bit later on, with the help of her spiky friends, called the Lurkers, Scarlet manages to take the second game, forcing a third map. And on that third map, Epic opens up with a battle cruiser, which deals a fair amount of drone damage. Scarlet decides to drone up like crazy after that, expecting a macro game, but is not quite prepared for the 8-Rex 3-base all-in that Epic is following up with. Her Mutalisk play kills some workers, but the Zerg unit count is not high enough and the drone count perhaps a bit too high, and because of that Epic manages to take the third game and thus the series. Over in Group B, no major upset, but I still like to shift the attention to Neep's insane 7-0 performance, only dropping 2 maps in total. Fun fact, both of the maps dropped were versus Protoss players. A scary prospect given Neep's first opponent in the bracket stage is going to be Australia. If we have a quick peek over in China, we saw Time take back his crown as he took out Cyan in a very dominating fashion with a 4-1 score in the finals. This means that Time will be directly seeded into the third round stage of Dreamhack Valencia. That is it for the Dreamhack Masters this week, but of course we also had some World Team League action in round number 5. The first match of round 5 was Shopify Rebellion versus Team Liquid, and for the 5th time in a row, Team Liquid disappointed their fans as Clem was the only player to take a map in a riveting best of 2 versus Beyond. This means that after 5 matches, TL is yet to win a single Clem bar. On the same day, we saw another stomp as Psystorm Gaming steamrolled Platinum Heroes, who are currently 4-26 in maps and 1-4 in overall clan war score. However, their position in the league is still above Team Liquid. Day 2 of round 5 saw SSLT almost upsetting the Guangdong Freaks, Armani dropping a map to Tutming and Keen losing 0-2 versus the Chinese Protoss Firefly. The Guangdong Freaks, who did not field trap, did manage to escape in the ace match, in which Armani ended up being slightly too strong for Firefly. Disaster averted, but because a win with an ace match is only worth 2 points, this is still an overall loss to the Freaks. In DPG versus Alpha X, we saw the reigning champion DPG completely annihilate Alpha X. Cure, the only player to drop a map versus Australia, and thus the score ended up with a 5-1 in favor of Dragon Phoenix Gaming, putting Dragon Phoenix Gaming in a solid first place with only 5 map losses and 25 map wins. As always, we also had 3 ESL Open Cups this week, starting on the Sunday in Korea with a Gumiho versus Su finals. After a long 5-game series, Gumiho managed to win the final game on Glittering Ashes and take home the first EPT Cup of the week. In Europe, their REKORDMEISTER, Mr. Gabriel Segat, also known as Hero Marine, took home another trophy. Also without any real issue, as he managed to destroy Skilles 3-0 in the finals. This was his 39th cup win over the entirety of the ESL Open Cups and his 2nd ESL Open Cup win this season. In America, we had something very, very special happen as Neep managed to beat Hero 3-0 in the finals, and this is the first time since the 31st of August 2020 that an American managed to win the cup. Back then it also was Neep. Now Neep recently joined Onsite Gaming and his results honestly have skyrocketed since then. 7-0 in his group and now winning an ESL Open Cup. Fantastic result for the American Protoss player, and I'm curious to see how well he can perform in the upcoming tournaments. That leads us to the clip of the week, where this week, rather than having a brilliant play, we have a slightly less brilliant play.
We love you, Paula. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh no.
Not the greatest force fields in the world, but then again, he only wasted 200 energy and got nothing for it. So truly not the end of the world. That sadly is going to be it for me today and for StarCraft today, but not before I tell you about unpaired words and what they truly are. An unpaired word is a word that, according to the usual rules of language, would appear to have a related word, but it does not. Such words usually have a prefix or a suffix that would imply that there is an antonym with the prefix or suffix being absent or opposite. Some good examples are debunk, where the word bunk doesn't mean the opposite of debunk, and reckless, where wreckful doesn't mean the opposite of reckless. And with that bit of brilliant word information, I'm going to leave you for today's episode of StarCraft Today. I'm looking forward to all the language nerds in the YouTube comments to correct me, to make fun of me, and that's what life is all about. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time for a new episode of StarCraft Today. Bye bye.